Good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Pradeep Kumar from Department of Clinical Microbiology, and I'll be presenting the hospital infection control data on behalf of our infection control team. So I'll be discussing three things. First is antibiogram of bacterial isolates. I'll be comparing the bacterial isolates isolated during March to April 2021 and comparing it to 2020. Second, I'll be discussing about surgical site infection. And third is COVID-19 rat data. So first is antibiogram. This is for bacterial isolates in 2020 and 2021, March to April. This is in accordance with CLSA M39A4 document. So here we have followed first isolate strategy, that is the initial microbial isolate of a particular species recovered from the patient, irrespective of source or specimen type or sensitivity profile. So this calculation is done at species level, and isolates with intermediate and susceptibility dose dependent are considered as resistant. And data is represented in the form of sensitivity. So as far as total samples are concerned, during March to April 2021, we had received around 5,450 samples, which is more than the previous year. When we look at the number of samples which we have received in blood, urine, and respiratory, in all these three cases, it is more than the previous one. But surprisingly, when we looked at the culture positivity rate of 2021 to 2020, we had seen that urine isolates have a similar culture positivity rate, whereas the blood and respiratory sample had showed a reduced positivity rate. So coming on to distribution of isolates from blood sample. So this year we had received around 62 samples of blood, which is less than the previous year. When we had seen, it is seen that gram-negative bacilli is predominating. That is in terms of Klebsiella, which is being most common, followed by E. coli. And we can see that the Klebsiella, E. coli, and Staph aureus, it shows a decreasing trend when we compare it to 2020 data, whereas Pseudomonas, Candida species, and other atypical non-fermenters, which includes Acinetobacter, Stenotrophomonas maltophilia, they show an increasing trend. Coming on to respiratory isolates, again there is a GNB predominance. The most common isolate is being Klebsiella, followed by E. coli. But we can see the trend that the percentage of Klebsiella has reduced to 32% compared to previous year, whereas E. coli has increased from 3 to 15%. And also Staphylococcus aureus, which has increased from 2 to 15%. Coming to urine isolates, it is comparable to the previous year. The E. coli being the most common uropathogen, followed by Klebsiella and Pseudomonas. And in this March to April 2021, there was an increase in other Enterobacteriaceae like Citrobacter, Enterobacter, Proteus, Providentia, Morganella, compared to previous year. So coming on to single isolate, that is Klebsiella pneumoniae. When we saw in previous year, we had received around 170 samples, but this year we had received around 112 Klebsiella pneumoniae isolates. And the most common is drain. Like Klebsiella pneumoniae was most commonly isolated from drain, that is 38%, followed by respiratory sample, urine and blood, and other miscellaneous samples. And when we see the sensitivity pattern of this Klebsiella, it was more or less similar to the previous year's sensitivity. That is the beta-lactam-is combination, monobactams, and all fluoroquinolones, aminoglycosides, carbapenems, all these had shown a decreased sensitivity, leaving us with colistin. But when we had done the extended sensitivity, we could see that we had tested fosfomycin in 21 isolates, in which we could see 76% sensitivity. And in case of Eloris, that is ceftazidime, that is ceftriaxone, sulbactam, and EDTA, it showed about 99% were sensitive. And when we had seen ceftazidime avibactam, it was seen that around 40% of the isolates were sensitive. But the data of fosfomycin, we have to take it with caution, because the CLSA guidelines clearly states that this fosfomycin should be tested only for urinary tract isolates of E. coli alone. And coming on to Eloris, again, this also should be taken with caution, because most of the studies which have been done with this particular agent is only in vitro studies. There are in vivo studies are yet to come. So leaving us with the option of ceftazidime avibactam. Coming on to E. coli, the number of isolates which we had received this year was comparable to the previous year, and as usual, the urinary isolates were predominant. That is 47% of the isolates were isolated from urine, followed by drain, bile, and other samples. So when we see the sensitivity of this E. coli, we can see that the beta-lactam-beta-lactamase combination, that is cefoperazone sulbactam, piperacillin tazobactam. So the sensitivity is preserved, and even aminoglycosides, the sensitivity is preserved. And carbapenems, it is a bit reduced, followed by, and most of the isolates were sensitive to tigecycline and colistin. So when we had done extended sensitivity, we could see that again fosfomycin, it was around 64% sensitive. Ceftazidime, this Eloris compound, it is 100% sensitive, and the ceftazidime avibactam is 64% sensitive. So leaving us with a better option of beta-lactam-beta-lactamase combination and aminoglycosides, which could be given before carbapenems. Coming on to Pseudomonas aeruginosa, this year we had received less than 30 isolate. That is only 26 isolates we had received in March to April. For building up antibiogram, we need a minimum of 30 isolates, but still we had made it. The most common isolate was from respiratory sample, followed by urine and blood and other samples. So when we see the sensitivity, we could see that compared to previous year, all the drug sensitivity has reduced, but this may be because of the less number of isolates which we had received during this March to April 2021. And we could not make antibiogram for other organisms, because the Acinetobacter species, we had isolated only 7 samples this year compared to 12 previous year, and Staph aureus only 12 isolates we had received compared to 13 previous year. Coming on to surgical site infection. So a brief introduction about surgical site infection. There are 3 types. First, the superficial incisional SSI. Second, deep incisional SSI. Third is organ space SSI. There are specific criteria to identify this surgical site infection. So if we have to diagnose it as superficial incisional SSI, so the criteria should be the date of event, that is the date of infection of the surgical site. It should occur within 30 days of surgery. It should involve only skin and subcutaneous tissue. And along with this, one of the following patient signs, that is purulent discharge from the superficial incision, or organism isolated from specimens which have been obtained aseptically, or a surgeon deliberately opens the incision wound, and along with that there is signs of pain, tenderness, localized swelling, erythema, or heat, or the diagnosis itself is made by the physician or the physician who is taking care. Coming on to deep incisional SSI, so here the date of event should occur within 30 or 90 days. It should involve deep soft tissue of the incision, that is facial and muscle layers. And patient criteria, it should have one of the following, that is either purulent drainage from deep incision, or the deep incision spontaneously dehisces or deliberately opened by surgeon. Along with that, we have when we isolate organism from specimen obtained aseptically, or patient should have one of the following symptoms, that is fever, localized pain, or tenderness, or an absence or other evidence of infection which involves deep incision. And finally, organ space SSI, here also the date of event occurs within 30 or 90 days. It involves deeper body parts, that is deeper to facial or muscle layer. And along with that, patient should have one of the following criteria, that is purulent drainage from a drain that is placed into organ space, and organism identified from fluid or tissue in the organ space, either culture or non-culture method, or evidence of abscess or infection involving the organ space. And along with that, one criteria for specific organ space infection site, that is breast surgery, cardiac surgery, intra-abdominal surgeries. So coming on to ILBS data, there are two surgical site infections. The first case, the date of surgery was 3rd of March. The surgery which was done was D2 distal gastrectomy with Billrod 2 reconstruction. The date of event, that is the date of infection of this superficial surgical site, it was 12th day from the date of surgery. That is the date of event. Patient had symptoms of fever and pain, localized pain, and signs were purulent drainage from the superficial incision site, tenderness, localized swelling, and the incision was deliberately opened by the surgeon. Laboratory parameter, we had received wound swab from this particular patient, which was growing Klebsiella pneumoniae. So this was a superficial incisional surgical site infection. Coming on to case 2, the date of surgery was 7th of April. The surgery was pylorus preserving pancreatoduodenectomy. The date of event, that is date of infection of the surgical site, was 5th day, that is 12th of April. The signs were purulent drainage from the site. Along with that, the incision was deliberately opened by surgeon. And laboratory parameter being wound swab. The first sample was wound swab from the surgical site which growed E. coli, followed by frank pus, which also grown E. coli with same sensitivity. And this is also a superficial incisional surgical site infection. Coming on to the last part of the presentation, that is COVID-19 rat data. So the rat testing was started on 30th of June 2020 last year. It has been 10 months since we had started this testing, and till now we have tested till 30th of April we had tested around 1,48,919. We have performed these many tests, and when we saw the positivity percentage, we all know we are amidst the wave of COVID-19, and we could see that the positivity percentage is up to 9%. That is approximately 1 in 10 patients who are getting tested were positive. Thank you.